So let's begin with Gasho, please. Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu. Okay, great. Nice to see so many of you here today. Today we're going to read a short excerpt from this book, Buddhism of the Heart, by Dr. Jeff Wilson. He's going to be our speaker in November, by the way, for our Eitaikyo service. So we're looking forward to having him. So he has this one essay titled Preferences, Prejudices, and Mistakes in the Narrative of Americanized Shin. There's everybody had the handout, I hope? Okay. There's an enduring but misguided assertion in the interpretation of Shin Buddhism in America. Mainly formulated by religious outsiders, it suggests that Jodo Shinshu has become Christianized, or that Pure Land Buddhism is in some way a species or analog of Christianity in Buddhist guise. How many times I've read or heard someone's first, and often only, reactions to Shin after attending a service. Comments about how Christian it seemed, with pews, hymns, organs, and a minister. The problem with this conceptualization of American Shin can be highlighted by pointing out the comparison with American Judaism. During the same time period that Shin Buddhists were immigrating and adapting to America, Jews were undergoing similar changes. Judaism's history in America begins in 1654, well before Buddhists arrived, but it was in the later part of the 19th century and the earlier decades of the 20th that Jewish immigration was at its most significant and Americanizing trends became most prominent and contested. This is exactly, turn it over, the period when immigrants brought Japanese Buddhism, mainly Jodo Shinshu, to North America. Jewish practices at the start of this period were very different than they are today. Women were excluded from the main part of the synagogue sanctuary. They sat in the balcony. Services lacked musical instruments, and there were no chairs, no choirs. You gotta get my Otherwise, like Japan, they don't have any chairs. There were no choirs. The congregation was noticeably separated from the, is this pronounced bima? Does anybody know? Okay, bima, the raised area where the Torah is stored. But Jewish traditions changed remarkably in response to the new American environment. Today, in many congregations, women and men sit together. Organs and other instruments are common, as are choirs. And there has been a movement to bring the congregation and the rabbi and Torah closer together physically to encourage greater intimacy within the worship space. American Judaism isn't usually talked about as having been Christianized or as being somehow divorced from its roots, despite these and other major innovations. Yet the same sorts of structural changes in North American Shin provoke a nearly uncontested stream of comments that are either critical or bemused. I think the reason must be a sort of unconscious Orientalism on the part of American observers. People look at Judaism as a Western monotheistic faith and don't expect it to look significantly different from American Christianity. But Buddhism is expected to look, sound, and feel totally other. Indeed, on some level, it seems that both anti-Buddhists and people with generally favorable opinions of Buddhism need Buddhism as some sort of ultimate other. For anti-Buddhists, Buddhism plays the role of the demonic other. For people disenchanted with Christianity, it plays the role of the alluring, exotic other. Both impulses tend to fossilize Buddhism into something of the idealized past, and holders of such views feel disturbed when living Buddhism's continuing adaptability to contemporary situations produces a look which fails to meet their Orientalist preferences. Furthermore, not only are many of the changes in American Shin parallel to accepted changes in American Judaism and American Islam to some extent too, but some aren't even American changes. For instance, the often remarked upon American adaptation of Shin Sunday schools is in fact an import from Japan, where Sunday schools were created in the 19th century. Likewise, the Young Men's Buddhist Association, a clear analog to the YMCA, was created in Asia and imported to America. If people only rely on first impressions, it's easy to get the wrong impression. But those who stay and learn more about Shin, particularly those willing to put their preconceived ideas about Buddhism and religion aside, readily find that it is a unique and vital version of the Buddha Dharma. So I kind of wanted to throw this out for discussion, and sometimes I'm concerned about how the newcomer, their first impression might be, of our service. Because if they're leaving let's say, a Judeo-Christian tradition, and they come to our service and they see the pews and they see an organ or piano, some of it might seem strange to them because they might be expecting something quite different. Of course, the sutra chanting is different, the offering of incense is different, but some of it might look very much like the Protestant church that they left. So I know some people feel that way. Even Reverend John, when he first came here, kind of felt that way. So, I'm kind of concerned about how our service should be going to the future if maybe we lose out on people that come and think that, oh, this is just Christianized, Buddhism, and maybe don't stick around to seek it a little bit deeper. So that's one point. And then the other point is just to explain to the new people our sort of history of our temples. So the Jodo Shinshu was brought to this country in the early 1900s by early first-generation pioneers, Issei, like my own grandparents, who they came from areas of Japan that were really strong in Shin Buddhism, like Hiroshima. And they were devout. Hiroshima is just like 99.9% Jodo Shinshu. Very devout families there. Even our Honganji feels that, this is like the heart of Shin Buddhism in Japan, areas like Hiroshima. So they came to this country and, because of the discrimination, established their own Japanese ethnic churches and communities. So temples were formed, and it was a safe haven for the Japanese Americans to have a sense of community, to be able to continue on their religious faith within this Western context. But as we got to the second generation, the Niseis, like my parents, they, being brought up in that atmosphere of a lot of discrimination, they wanted to really look and become a part of this American culture. And that's why they didn't even speak to me in Japanese to continue the language. All of us sanseis, we were never spoken to by our Nisei parents, even though they were fluent in Japanese. Every time my parents were speaking in Japanese, I knew one thing: I'm in trouble. Because they're talking to each other, and then they're looking at me, and then they're talking to each other. Oh no, Or they're talking to each other very conveniently. They don't want us to understand what they're talking about, so then they speak in Japanese. But they never spoke directly to us in Japanese, but wanting us to be, American. That's why I don't even have a Japanese name. Marvin Ray Harada. My sister, Donna Lynn Harada. How American can you get, So that's the context, okay? And so that's why when our churches were formed, adopt American words. Buddhist Churches of America, Orange County Buddhist Church, pews, organ, and all of that. But now we may be at a time where we don't have that context of that kind of discrimination against Japanese Americans. We're trying to make our teachings universal. We're trying to make it accessible to anyone. And so maybe it's time to rethink some things, like even the name Orange County Buddhist Church, to something else, or maybe even some elements of our service. But those of us that have been brought up in it, now we're kind of used to it. We even talked about, should we take out one gatha? And people said, no, we have to have both gathas. So we're sort of really kind of used to the service format and everything as well. But we also have to think of how the new person sees it. So I thought I'd throw this out for discussion, and especially those of you that are new or came new to our tradition, how it struck you in the beginning, or even how it strikes you now. So any thoughts? Yeah, Rick. I'll wait till it's here.
There you go, Rick. Coming from Christian background,
Yeah.
It reminded me just of going to church.
Uh-huh.
You have like certain ways you go through.
Uh-huh.
But we genuflect a lot more in Catholicism. Like, we've got to get back down on our knees all the time about everything. But and then the other thing is, how we talk about how you relate to everybody. So like when things come up about my family and people ask me about my wife, it's, oh, she's Japanese. They're like, they look at me and depending on the age, they're like, were you in the military? And I'm like, no. And I was like, no, it's nothing like that. She was a picture bride, I picked her out of a book, But when I first came, I thought, maybe it's going to be something really different.
Uh-huh.
And we got to sit down in a pew, and I was like, well, that's cool because I hate sitting on the ground, but I like it, but it seems kind of westernized to me. And I think that's what you're going for right now. So.
Yes. I'm sorry, Ed, I should remember your name.
Jennifer.
Catherine?
Jennifer.
I wasn't even close.
It's okay. It's okay. So is there a difference between church and temple? Because my husband is Vietnamese Buddhist. And so every Sunday I say, I'm going to church. And every Sunday he says, you're going to temple. And I say, okay, well, I've been going to church for 43 years, so I'm going to church. But I don't know if there's a difference.
Well, actually, I think technically the word church means house of God. And so I had a very devout Christian man who stopped here one day, came to the office, and they said, you cannot call this church. He says, church means house of God. And so he was quite offended that this is a Buddhist temple and we're using the word church. So many of us kind of use church and temple interchangeably. In Japanese, it's like the word for temple is, the character is ji, means, you have to translate it more like temple. So that's one change. Some of our BCA churches have changed to temple, like Shin Buddhist Temple or Idaho, Oregon Buddhist Temple. So that is one alternative. But temple is not exclusive to Buddhism either. There's a Caucasian man at Vista, and he'd been going to Vista Temple for many years, and he would tell his friends, every week I go to temple. And he said all of his friends thought that he was Jewish. When he said, no, I'm Buddhist. I go to a Buddhist temple. Oh. So temple is not exclusive to Buddhism. And Mormons use the word temple as well. But maybe it's better than church in one sense.
When did we change from temple to church? Was it in the 40s?
Oh, no, it was, when they officially made the name for our national organization, and that was during the war. It was at internment camp where they made the bylaws and what we're going to call our national organization, and they came up with Buddhist Churches of America. Yeah, Jeff? Yeah, you wait for the microphone. Yeah.
Wasn't part of the reason why churches was chosen because of the discrimination and the fear of Japan after the war and trying to assimilate more and not have language that offended people?
Right. Yes. So that was very much the reason for calling it Buddhist Churches of America. Stacy? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. That was funny. Whether we call it a temple or a church, I intend to keep coming.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Now, having said that, because I am newer.
Right.
Although I've been coming here for a long time. I was coming to Obon and Hanamatsuri and different things like that. But I hadn't attended any services up until, I think, January of this year. And it just, I have to say, it did seem to me like a feather bed for lapsed Christians at first. It's a soft landing. Like, here's some of the things you're used to. You can slowly, start to learn about what we do here, but we're going to give you some of those things that you may have gotten used to over time. That's what it seemed like.
I see.
But I've also been paying attention, and I'm committed to learning all of the things that bring me here. And some of those things were a little uncomfortable for me at first, so I just wanted to admit, that.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to get input from all of you.
And I could see where if someone was coming, I was committed for the long haul, and really trying to learn what this was about. But if someone was just kind of sampling and trying different places to see where they have a good fit, I could see where if they didn't put the time in, they might get the wrong impression.
Thank you, Stacy. John, and then Hiroki, right here. Oh, right. John, right here. John, John, and then Hiroki.
I have a question. I came from the Fresno Betsuin.
Yes.
What does Betsuin mean?
So Betsuin is a word unique only to our Hongaji system. In Japan, the Hongaji has 10,000 temples throughout Japan. 10,000 temples. So they made certain temples sort of like a district head, and they called them Betsuin. But Betsuin literally means it's the Gomonshu's, actually the Gomonshu's temple. And the person serving as the head minister at the Betsuin is called a Rinban. And that Rinban is serving on behalf of the Gomonshu directly. That's why it's a little bit kind of a, I don't know if you want to call it, closer connection to the mother temple, Honganji. But it was used as a way to administer all the 10,000 temples throughout Japan. So we're not a Betsuin, but there are several Betsuin in the United States, like Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Jose, Fresno. And that the BCA was following the same system. We have all these 60 temples. How can we kind of administer to them, service them? And they made certain ones in certain areas Betsuin. Yes.
Hi. My name is Naresh. So I'm like a born Buddhist in India.
Yes.
But then when Sacramento, first time I went to the Buddhist church, and
Yes.
I asked the minister, I said,
Yeah.
why are you calling church? And he gave the same explanation that you gave. But when we are travelers, as consultants, I've traveled all around the country, and when came back to the Orange County, and I was looking for, okay, do we have the similar here in Orange County or in Los Angeles? There we found just like a 10 minutes from our home. And started coming here, and I tell my friends, okay, Sunday I go to the church. You go to the church? I said, Buddhist church. Right, so they think that I became a Christian. So.
I see.
But my older daughter, she proudly says, oh, I go to the Buddhist church. Because her friends are Christians and they go to the church. Oh, I go to the Buddhist church.
Oh.
And my younger daughter, she's like a Sikh. She proudly says, oh, I go to the Dhamma school. So.
How interesting. Nadish, I know there's a Sri Lankan temple just up the street on Dale, but you choose to come here. Can I ask you why you choose here rather than because it seems like you'd be more comfortable there, but we love having you here.
Yes. So it's like I follow Theravada Buddhism, right? So it's good to know a lot of things. I'm very knowledgeable, gaining all that. But when you go to the Sri Lankan temple, it's not engaged. The kids are not engaged. We are not engaged. We just listen to the priest, and there is no question answered. We have to have separate sessions. So the social hall here, right? It's very like enlightening. And when my friends came from Bay Area, like 5-6 families, I brought them here. I said, this is how it should be the new Buddhism, kind of. It should be engaged Buddhism rather than just passing the things.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. I thought maybe it's because you liked our Japanese food here or something like that. And Hiroki, Ron, Hiroki had to say. Yeah.
So, I think my family, they come from a Buddhist background, but, when I was in school, high school, college, I went to a Christian church.
Oh.
And so I didn't really have an opportunity outside of just, Hanamatsuri, Obon, carnivals and stuff, just have fun, to really know about Buddhism. And so as I came to OCBC, it's all perspective, I think.
Yeah.
You could look at it as, this Shin Buddhism's kind of imitating Christianity, or it's evolving into just basically another form. Or you could look at it as, it's a transition. It allows someone who's not familiar with Shin Buddhism to kind of feel comfortable. Some of the processes are similar.
Yeah.
And so it makes it more inviting for someone who's exploring other religions to kind of understand some of the process. And I think for me, actually, it made that transition easier. And then as you are patient, as you come, then you really pick up on what they're actually teaching. So I think it's great.
Thanks, Hiroki. Someone else? Over here, Christina. Christina? Oh, someone? Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Marsha. Oh, yeah, Marsha.
I thought we were trying to have Ron get his steps in. So I've been coming, I actually don't know how many years. We were just talking about this with Susan, but it's been wonderful. But if you don't know me, I'm a worker bee. Like even when I exercise, I like those intense workouts where I'm dripping sweat and sore. And so I had been reading about Buddhism for a long time and looking for things. So when I started to look for a place, I was like ready to work and learn and really like get into it, So I was like more like Reverend Turner, where I sort of felt like, wait, I don't have to work hard, I just have to come. And everyone just kept, and all the Dharma talks were saying, listen to the Dharma. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm here. I want to hear it. Like, what else is there? Like, what do I need to do? What do I need to read? So it felt, I was like Reverend Turner, and I sort of felt like this is too easy, like this is the easy Buddhism, and I was looking for more work and really get into it, and but I also really loved it. It was also like right away. I think I mentioned part of the reason that I finally started looking for a place was because the kids. One of my sons had a friend that was a born-again Christian and was really pushing him to go to church with her. And he was like, how come we don't have a symbol? Like she has a cross, what do we have, So it actually was really nice for the kids that it was this easy transition. And the very first time we came, you had Freddie Frog. And so I was like, this is it. I found the place for the family. Because we did try other temple, I even was open to going to a Jain temple. There's one in Buena Park. It had a fence. It was locked. I tried calling. Nobody called me back. And then I went to another one, and I didn't. It was all the Dharma school sort of things were in Mandarin or Cantonese. So I'm agreeing with what he's saying, that I felt like here my whole family could be a part of the Sangha and practice. And after years, I feel like even though I thought like, oh, I need to work hard and this is too easy, it's not easy. I think practicing is, the messages are easy, but it's very difficult in reality to practice. And so I really appreciate the adult study where we get to talk about that.
Thank you, Marsha. But eventually we did put you to work because she's at the bazaars and everything else. And she's a worker bee too, boy. Christina?
Hi. Well, I'm Christina, and I've been coming here for 13 years, Jan?
Yeah,
something like that.
Probably, yeah.
And Jan started coming shortly after, and some other people that I know here. But I remember so vividly the first time I walked in. Reverend Harada, you were doing your Dharma talk with Freddie the Frog, And and it's always so like, I love it every time you do it with Freddie the Frog, because it reminds me of the first time that I came here, but within less than 5 minutes, whether there were pews or whatever, I just felt like,
I see.
I'm home.
Oh, I see. Oh, wow.
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, it was just, I never really questioned, like, if I liked coming or not. Like, I do remember asking you about why it was called church, and, got the same answer like the gentleman over here was talking about. But, and I will generally tell people that I'm going to temple just because people will think I'm Christian. But on the other hand, like, the fact that there is that history behind why you guys call it church is always something so cool to be able to talk to people about, so that they understand what Japanese Americans carrying that tradition went through when they came here. And I don't think it would be a good thing for people to not have that context and that history. And the fact that, we having a discussion like we are now, or the pews, or even the piano. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it's American, not just because we're in America, but because some culture immersion, not necessarily assimilation, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but some kind of immersion isn't always a bad thing. That's how things evolve. And he was talking about, things evolve. That's how music evolves. I mean, we wouldn't have jazz, blues, rock and roll if it weren't for the combination of music coming from Africa and also the Western classical music. We wouldn't have that evolution. And we're all about change, and just like how living that dynamic, creative Buddhist life is part of that. So I was never like offended, but like, I'm gonna be honest, like the whole going on Sunday thing, because of my own personal issues, but that's me. I just didn't want to go on Sunday because I just felt like because I didn't want to feel like so Christian. And so I used to love to come always just Wednesday night, my happy hour, meditation, it's dark, it's the middle of the week. Matthew used to call it like the middle of the week happy hour. Where's Matthew? Is he here? No, he's not here today, but I'm putting him on blast anyway. Then my schedule got to the point where I couldn't make it on Wednesday nights consistently. So I'm just like, you know what, that's just me being weird. And if Sunday is the most convenient time for me to come, and it's a convenient time for a lot of people, because not just because of Christianity, but because of the American work schedule, that it's a convenient time for a lot of people, I don't see like, what's wrong with that. And some kind of culture immersion, it's always inevitable. When you go to an Italian restaurant in Japan, typically it's not going to be all Italian. You're going to have some bok choy in there. You're going to have, some soba noodles. It's not going to be like all Italian. But I don't think that's a bad thing if cultures emerge. I'm sorry if I'm just going off on tangents, but
okay, thank you, Christina.
I get very excited.
I just want to comment on her, how she felt kind of at home. And I think it's really heartwarming when I hear people say that when they come here, they felt like they found a home. And I think that's something that Shin Buddhism can really offer people in the future, that feeling of as if you found your true home. Because people aren't feeling that at work, right? You're not feeling like you're at your true home at work. And the way families have we have the family structure has kind of broken down, I think, in this culture. People aren't necessarily even feeling that at their homes or in their families. But if they can feel that here, that belong to a sangha, to a community, and it feels like home, it feels like family, that's a great contribution, I think, that we can give to people in the future. So just my thoughts on that. And I think our time is about up. Maybe if one more comment by anyone, if they have something. If not, I think Dharma School class. Oh, Mark, go ahead. Yeah, Mark.
I was going to say this actually, for me, it was the same thing where, it seemed too Western.
Yeah.
But, I've studied Zen and I've studied Chan. So this is really working, because when you go to like a Mandarin Chan temple, you're doing bowing and standing and listening to bells for like 30 minutes. We couldn't do that. And when you go to a Zen temple, when they say Zazen, you meditate for 30 minutes. And there isn't really, they're trying, but So they've actually gone the other way, where they kind of segregated the Americans, so they can teach them, because like it was mentioned, they teach in Mandarin.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it really matters what you call it, but this is working.
I see.
So.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your input and discussion today. So
Reverend Harada, I wanted to just add one more thing.
Okay, Eugene. Okay.
I think whatever changes are made, I think it will be great because it's the very essence of impermanence, right? And so Buddhism wasn't what it was before.
Right.
It is what it is now, but it will be something as it continues. So I think it's a great dynamic that you're even considering this purposely. But that's just the nature of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Eugene. Okay, we'll close with Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. If you have a question or comment, you can see me after class.